We're back. The Silver and Blue Huddle is back again. Just gonna be just me and Expert Corner. So amazing couldn't make it tonight, but we're here to talk Dallas Cowboys, and we got some new things that we need to talk about. Some things that actually happened since our last podcast, probably a few weeks ago. We got a new wide receiver. The schedule has dropped. We got our coach having press conferences, sounding like he was the best man for the job. So that's what we're gonna get into today. So let's kick it off and talking about our coach. Schottenheimer, my man Esper, say he had a nice little press conference today. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about what you heard.
Yeah, so obviously when Schottenheimer got hired, there was a lot of Cowboy Nation that was like, no, we didn't need an inside guy. We needed to bring someone out, some fresh blood, some new blood in the building. But every time I hear Schottenheimer talk, he is the new blood. He's talking about, competing every single day and everything that they do. They want to be the most competitive football team on the planet. He's talking about guys spending time outside of the locker room, outside of the facility, building those bonds, becoming that one unit is what you need. He's starting to instill that discipline. When was the last time you saw veterans show up to voluntary OTAs that usually are for those rookies to kind of get acclimated to the system? You see Micah Parsons there. CeeDee Lamb is there. George Pickens is there. Dak Prescott is there leading that group. He raved about Dak Prescott and the leader that he is, but he also talked about a lot of the guys that they brought into this building that they drafted, whether it was Tyler Booker. They talked about guys that they traded for. They talked about the two young running backs, how they're starting to get going. Everything he's saying is exactly the opposite of what I heard from Mike McCarthy last year. Mike McCarthy looked like it just felt in his press conference like he was down, like this was the down time of the year. And Schottenheimer looks and talks like he just won the Super Bowl. He's ready to go. He's fired up. And that's what you want from your head coach. And he's talking about Micah Parsons in here being one of the top leaders. Of course, we know Dak Prescott is one of those guys. But then he talked about like Miles Sanders. He talked about Williams that they got from the Broncos. He talked about Jaden Blue. He talked about so many guys. Oh, Diggy Zua. He brought so many guys up. He talked about the bond that CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens have already. He talked about Lukey at fullback doing tight end work, doing running back work, and what he's doing to improve.
Right.
All the things that he's saying are the right things, and what we want to hear, Rich, when we start talking about this team getting ready for that Thursday night matchup versus Philadelphia. You need to start that now. And while Dak Prescott is still not even cleared to be doing any kind of contact drills yet, they say he'll be ready for training camp. He's still there putting in work, getting ready to go. And you love seeing that from your leader in Dak. You love hearing that from your head coach. I was fired up listening to the press conference today. It sounds like he's starting to change the culture in that building to go back to the old Dallas Cowboys and something I love to hear.
Right. And anytime that you can get veterans in the building, like a Micah Parsons, like a CeeDee Lamb, and those kids, because, normally when you mention voluntary workouts, they be like, oh, I got conflicts. I'm on vacation. I got this. I'm out of the country. But to get those guys in camp now on a voluntary basis, that is huge. That's definitely not something that you hear coming out of Cowboy camp every single year. I mean, normally you got divas out there that, like I said, they take vacations, they spend family time. They be like, oh, it's just voluntary. I ain't got to worry about it. Or I work out on my own. But hearing what you're saying about what he said in the press conference, I might have to actually start tuning in into his press conferences, because I'm used to the old Mike McCarthy or the coaching for that, and they didn't really have too much to say. And then they'd be like, oh, we're going to deal with the guys that's here. We're not worried about those other guys that's on vacation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey.
And that's exactly what Schottenheimer said was we asked the veterans to be here. This is where it starts. We don't start when training camp starts. We want to start now. The young guys are here. They need to learn from you guys. They need to start building that relationship with those veteran guys. And he talked about, think about last year. Micah Parsons didn't come to one OTA. Mm-hmm. He missed the entire OTA season until it was mandatory.
Right.
CeeDee Lamb. Now, obviously, CeeDee Lamb was in a contract talk, but guess what? Micah's in a contract dispute right now. I won't call it a dispute. They're in negotiations with Micah's contract. He's there. CeeDee Lamb is there. They trade for George Pickens. He's already there, getting work in with some of these guys, working with Dak Prescott, working with the other wide receivers. Dak Prescott is there every single day. He raved about Joe Milton and how Joe Milton has picked up this playbook and how Dak is taking Joe Milton under his wing to get him ready to go. You never know what happens. Last year, we lose Dak Prescott to the hamstring injury. Cooper Rush has to come in and play quarterback the rest of the year. We're not the same offense. We look horrible on offense at times. He's trying to get Joe Milton ready. You never know what's going to happen. Dak took over with the injured Romo. Dak could get hurt. Joe Milton have to step in. We need to be ready for that. Everything that he said today, there wasn't anything I took away from the press conference like, no, I don't like that. Everything he said made me more excited that they chose him to be the head coach. And just think, Rich, he's got a bullseye on his back because he was there with the old regime. He was there with Mike McCarthy. And so he's got some of that bad stuff on his resume, whether he likes it or not. He has got to prove some people wrong this season because he may have the shortest leash of any Dallas Cowboy coach we've seen in a long time. But I really feel like he's going to have this team ready to go. Now, obviously, it all comes down to what happens in September when they put it on the field. But good stuff when you look in May and you start looking at these voluntary workouts. Good to hear all the things from head coach Brian Schottenheimer.
For once, it seems like we're actually going to have some accountability in Dallas. Is that after I heard everything that you said, and for once, it sounds like we about to have some player accountability.
Absolutely.
So
some discipline, which if you go back to some silver and blue huddles, we've talked about that. We need more discipline, more accountability in that stadium, at the Star in Frisco. That's where it starts. We got to stop having these bonehead players and plays every single week.
Right. And you mentioned it before. You mentioned Micah Parsons is in negotiation. So for him to be at the voluntary camp, that is huge. But let's talk about his contract because we talked about on the Silver and Blue Huddle a few weeks ago that we kind of wanted Micah Parsons to be signed like weeks ago. And here we are, fast forward to like a month or two now, and he's still not signed. And there's a lot of fake news going around on X saying that he got signed this contract and that contract.
Yeah.
It got me one time, but
it got me too. But here's my thing about the contract. Mm-hmm. We saw CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott go to the ninth hour. Like it felt like Dak signed his contract and then ran out the tunnel to play the first game is really what it felt like with him. So all I'm asking that it gets done before we get to training camp. I know they're in talks. They're trying to figure out the money is right. I know Micah has said he doesn't need to get paid $40 million a year and all that stuff. But I think when you start looking around the rest of the league, Fred Warner just signed 3 years, $65 million, $64 million, whatever it was. He got paid $20+ million a year. Micah's going to hopefully be around that price tag because the Cowboys want him. They have no plans to move on from Micah Parsons. They want him in that building. Schottenheimer wants him in that building. Schottenheimer even praised Micah Parsons in the press conference, going through this negotiation and still they're putting in the work, knowing that that's the business part. And Schottenheimer talked about it. He said, this is the NFL. This is a business. I even have an agent as the head coach. There is a business aspect that I am not going to get involved with. I am here to make sure we make these players the best men that they can be when they get onto this football field for us to win football games. So the contract stuff will take care of itself. Obviously, as Cowboy fans, Rich, you and I know we're here yelling, just get the deal done already, right? Just get it done. We got too many. You got enough cap space. You did all of this work, all this cap space in the offseason to make it to this point where you have money to sign Micah Parsons. Utilize that cap space. Let's get it done with because we need that. We need that guy that's going to get us 12 to 15 sacks every single year coming off the end, especially with the other talent that they got around him.
Facts. I mean, I would love that deal to get done. I mean, I don't know if it's going to have the same consequences of them waiting like they did to Dak Prescott. I mean, if Micah Parsons had to wait to the beginning of the season, week 1, like inform me, is that a problem? That's a problem, right?
It is. It's a huge problem. Okay. Yeah. He doesn't need to go through training camp with this thing over his head, worried about his contract. Players can say, I let my agent deal with that all they want. But when you're talking about $20+ million a year to set yourself up, to set your family up, obviously Micah Parsons knows he's one of the most talented players in the NFL. He deserves money.
Right.
And we can talk all we want about these guys get paid millions and millions of dollars. The thing is they generate millions and millions of dollars of revenue, so they get paid according to that. And because you're one of the top guys, it's always based off of, right? Brock Purdy just got signed. Why did Brock Purdy get all that money? Well, because that's where the hierarchy is. That's where the 49ers valued Brock Purdy at that $200+ million. He didn't get paid like Dak. He didn't get paid like Josh Allen. They don't think he's at that level. And Brock Purdy's smart enough to know, hey, I'm not at that level, so I got paid. He got a good contract. Micah's the same way. The difference is I think Micah has come out and said multiple times, I don't need to be the highest paid player.
Right.
Now, all that sounds great to Cowboy fans, right? Because that means we got money to go somewhere else. But when it comes down to it, his agent has a job to do because his agent makes money off of what he gets Micah Parsons signed for. He's got to set Micah Parsons up. He's got to think about his family, his kids, all that stuff. So my thing is, let's get in the room. Let's sit at the table. Let's figure out what the dollars is and let's get it done because you're going to sign him. But, this is how Jerry Jones does business. It's always push and pull and wait till the last minute. And I can't stand that.
Well, he did mention a few weeks ago that Jerry, whether or not you believe it or not, Jerry said him and Micah Parsons actually had an agreement on a contract amount, and then it just really needed to go to Micah Parsons' agent because for whatever reason, Jerry don't deal with agents. He only deals with the players. So I guess the ball is in the agent's court. He maybe be reading over it. He might be saying, Micah, you need to include this in the contract. You need to go back to them, get more money. So it could be in the agent's court, which could be a good and bad thing because agents can probably hold up the process a little bit longer because they asking for more money, and then like you say, you got to put it in his commissions, and Micah, they got this type of language, but you need this type of language. It's a lot.
Yeah.
But overall, they need to come together and get it done because we can't wait. We can't wait.
No, absolutely.
So we also had another addition to the team, and just like you mentioned, I wish I had a crystal ball, and I wish you can give me the next Powerball numbers that's coming up this weekend because you actually predicted it last podcast, the draft podcast, when you said that the Cowboys are going to trade for a wide receiver. Did you know who it was going to be? No, but I'm happy they made the trade, and I'm happy with the person that they actually got in George Pickens from the Steelers. Like you predicted it. Yep. You said the Cowboys are going to get a wide receiver, and that's the reason why we didn't draft one high in the rounds. But George Pickens, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so obviously I felt like the Cowboys wanted T-Mac in the draft. And once T-Mac went, it kind of shifted their focus. Then you look at their draft and you say, okay, they didn't draft anything on the outside, no weapon to help Dak Prescott outside of a couple running backs. But then you see the George Pickens trade, you realize, okay, now that draft makes even more sense to me because they said, okay, we're going to protect Dak Prescott. We're going to get him some weapons in the backfield. We're going to get guys that get after the quarterback and that can defend the pass. And then we're going to go find a wide receiver somewhere in a team that they don't want it. Now, did I expect it to be a guy like George Pickens? No. You're talking about a number one wide receiver off another football team. And when you have 2 1s, and I love the fact that CeeDee Lamb came out, him and George Pickens at a charity softball game. CeeDee Lamb basically says, we don't look at I'm 1A, he's 1B, or he's 1A, I'm 1B. He said, you look over here, there's a 1. You look over there, there's a 1. What you going to do now? You got to pick your poison at some point, because if you don't double team CeeDee Lamb, he's going to beat most corners in the NFL, 99% of them consistently.
Right.
Pickens is the same way. You can't just leave Pickens one-on-one most times. You got to have some safety help over the top. I like to compare him, as much as I can't stand the Philadelphia Eagles, I like to compare George Pickens to A.J. Brown, a little more athletic than A.J. Brown. He's a little bit more get up and down the field. A.J. Brown is a big physical wide receiver. When the ball is in his vicinity, he's going to go get it. George Pickens is the same way. And Dak has already talked about when the ball is in his vicinity, he has a better chance than 50-50 to go get this football because that's the type of wide receiver that he is. He's got good footwork, good route tree running. And this is a guy that helps, that instantly makes this offense dangerous because now you got 2 outside guys that really can stretch defenses, work through the middle, and then you can add like a Turpin, a Tolbert, any of those young guys that they brought in as undrafted free agents. But this is why I think Micah Parsons needs to get signed, because now once you sign Micah Parsons, you have all of this money saved up. Now you can go to George Pickens and try and get him long term. Maybe not 5 years. Maybe you can get him on a 3-4 year deal to stay here in Dallas, because if you got 2 wide receivers on the outside, just think the Philadelphia Eagles just won a Super Bowl with 2 number 1 wide receivers.
Right.
regardless of what people think, AJ Brown and Smitty are 1-1. Those are guys that are ones on any other team in the NFL. And now you got that in Dallas. And you got two big wide receivers. These are guys that can go up and get the football against coverage. They know how to run routes. And then when they get the ball in their hands, they are dangerous after the catch. I was super excited. And then the fact that the Cowboys didn't give up anything for this. They basically gave a third-round pickup for a number one wide receiver. But if George Pickens decides he's not going to stay in Dallas and he's only here for a year, they get a third-round pick back. So basically, you got a free loan for George Pickens. Now, you gave a fifth up, you got a sixth back. Those really don't matter. But you don't lose anything. This is a rent-free, try him out, see what he does. And if he's stellar like I think he's going to be, sign him to a long-term deal, and him and CeeDee Lamb are playing football together for a long time.
Right.
That signing right there made the Cowboys draft. It made their offseason. It made all the acquisitions that they did. This is what we've been waiting for. And we talked about this. This was the most important offseason of the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones and Will McClay, those guys have hit home run after home run after home run. Right. They are doing exactly what we need them to do. I'm super excited, Rich.
Yeah, same here. And that kind of was a gem that you had mentioned also on Silver and Blue, that the Cowboys low-key need to kind of take the Eagles formula on how to build a team. And you mentioned that we needed another number one wide receiver similar to A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith, and we got that. But just hearing people talk about George Pickens, and we obviously got to talk about it, when he was with the Steelers, he kind of was a hot head a little bit. He kind of was like undisciplined, and Mike Tomlin has pretty much given up on him. But I did some research, like, there's been some pretty good wide receivers that Mike Tomlin and the Steelers have given up on that has went elsewhere and had great careers after the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I'm not too afraid about George Pickens. I think he's going to do well. The numbers and the stats show that when people leave Pittsburgh, their numbers go up. I mean, it don't go crazy, but they do have an increase in production. So I'm excited. I'm excited for George Pickens.
Let's look at the quarterbacks throwing him the football last year.
Right.
I mean, to be honest, if he wasn't upset and a hothead, I would wonder where his heart was as a wide receiver.
Right.
You're not getting the football, and you a number one wide receiver. Why are you not forcing me the football? Right? The great thing is all the way back to segment one, we talked about Schottenheimer. He talked about George Pickens because a stupid reporter asked that question. He's a hothead. He's a culture vulture and all that nonsense. What has George Pickens done since he's been here in Dallas? And Schottenheimer was like, listen, I've dealt with George Pickens. Mm-hmm. The moment we talked about going and get George Pickens, I called his high school coach, his college coach, all the people that he's worked with, this coach in Pittsburgh, that coach there, this coach. And he said everybody raved about George Pickens, how he's all about football. He knows what he's doing. He's very passionate. He's very competitive. He wants the football. What wide receiver doesn't?
Right.
Then show me a great wide receiver that's not on the sidelines demanding the football. Jerry Rice, Randy Moss, Michael Irvin, Dez Bryant, Terrell Owens.
Right.
Like those are the guys you want. Now, I don't care. Well, you can say what you want about wide receivers being divas, but I want a wide receiver that wants the football in his hands.
Right.
Now, Schottenheimer talked about George Pickens, like, he don't even call him George Pickens. He calls him GP. He said, every time I deal with GP, man, he's been a great guy. He's been attentive. He came in here instantly, started learning the playbook, working with Dak Prescott, building a relationship with CeeDee Lamb. All those people that want to downgrade a guy because he didn't do well in Pittsburgh. Well, not everybody does well in Pittsburgh.
Right.
Sometimes you got to get out of Pittsburgh for sometimes a change of scenery is the best thing for a player.
Plaxico.
Let's give George Pickens the benefit of the doubt. Now, hey, listen, he's on his last year of his contract, which means he really wants to ball out. Because if he comes into Dallas and he plays horrible, or he's ranting up and down the sideline, he's not producing, he's not going to get the contract he wants from anybody, much less the Dallas Cowboys. So I expect him to be on his best behavior. He's going to come in here and produce. He's going to work with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, and he's going to show out. And he wants to probably prove Pittsburgh wrong that you should never have got rid of me because I am that dude. And he's going to ball out. And I think George Pickens is going to do just fine in Dallas. And we'll look up in a year and be like, hey, it gave us a chance for a Super Bowl in Dallas, something that we desperately need right now.
Right. He could have been that missing piece that the Eagles had with Saquon Barkley. Like George Pickens could be that dude because we definitely need another wide receiver on the other side. And the fact that he's in his last year of the contract and he did not say that he will not report until he get an extension, he's already in the camp already. Without he hasn't said any of that. That is a plus. That is a huge plus. Yep. Because we've seen before in the past where players get traded and they may be in like a contract negotiation or a contract dispute. And they be like, hey, I'm not going to play for this team until we get further along in the contract talks. And he hasn't mentioned any of that. So that's a huge plus for George Pickens. I can't wait to see him line up against like on the other side of CeeDee Lamb and who they put in the slot. And that be cooking. So Dak Prescott, before we go into the last topic, Dak Prescott really has no more excuses. He has zero excuses. He got to produce. We gave him some more weapons, okay? So you got to produce.
Let's think about when Dak Prescott had 2 number ones. When he had Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb was his best year. He should have won the MVP that year. The fact that he did not win the MVP that year, you can go back and look at the stats. He was the best quarterback in the NFL, period. Hands down. It wasn't even close. Lamar Jackson was good. Don't get me wrong. Lamar had a great year. But his numbers were nothing near what Dak Prescott did. Dak Prescott should have won that MVP, and that's when he had 2 number 1 wide receivers, a tight end that could go get the football, and a running game. And he had his best year. And guess what? The Dallas Cowboys have all those things again.
I can't wait. I can't wait to week 1. But speaking about week 1, the NFL actually dropped the NFL schedule for this year for our beloved Dallas Cowboys. I seen the schedule, and I don't think I see a loss at all. But that might be the delusion in me. You know how I get when I see the schedule. I see 17 W's. 17 W's on the week, starting in week 1. But here we go. Week 1, Philadelphia Eagles, man. Let's talk about the schedule. Let's see what we like about the schedule, what we don't like. Key games, predictions about the records. But let's kick it off. What is it? Thursday night football, week 1 against the Philadelphia Eagles, where they get to raise a banner.
Prime time. It's the Cowboys. It's America's team going to Philadelphia. Philadelphia raises the banner. We talked about this in the pre-show. I just want the Cowboys to show up, right? Show up. Show that you're a contending football team. This game could go either way. I'm going to give it to the Super Bowl champions because they're raising their banner. It's at home. You know that crowd is going to be absolutely nuts. It's the first game with this new look offense. I'm going to give that one to Philadelphia. It's going to be close, but that one's the L for the Cowboys.
Okay. Well, actually, before we go there, because I remember maybe a few years ago when Tampa Bay won the Super Bowl, didn't Dallas Cowboys open up their season against week 1, Tom Brady?
And we lost.
But we showed up good, though. We showed up.
We showed up. Dak played well. Dak played well.
Yeah.
Yes. Trayvon Diggs played well. It was a good game. It was a great game versus Tom Brady. Yeah.
So I'm going to go with you. You said Cowboys are going to catch an L. I'm going to go with the opposite and say the Eagles have a hangover. They're not as good as they thought they were. And the Cowboys come out and show up and they surprise the Eagles with a new offense and a new coach and a new weapons that Dak Prescott got. George Pickens going to have a monster game. CeeDee Lamb is going to do what he do. Dak owns the Eagles overall. He does own them. So Daddy Dak is back. So the Eagles better watch out. They better come fully prepared because week 1 you could have a hangover. I know the Super Bowl champions have a great record in week 1 and the ring ceremony, but I think the Cowboys come out and shock them because it's a brand new team, whole new attitude, whole new accountability. So week 1, I got the Cowboys winning in a shocker. It ain't a shock to me, but it may be a shock to y'all. But week 2, we got those Giants who we also
a bye
own.
Week. That's a bye week. That's a bye week. That's a W.
In week 2. Move on. Thank you, NFL schedulers, for giving us a bye week in week 2.
We appreciate it. Move on.
Week 3, we got those Chicago Bears at Soldier Field.
2 bye weeks in a row. We got 2 bye weeks in a row. That's a W. That's a W.
Week 4, we got the Green Bay Packers back in Dallas.
Okay. This one is tough, right? Because Green Bay has played us tough, right? We owe the Green Bay Packers a little something. That's a W because it's at home. Cowboys at home versus Jordan Love and the Packers. I'm taking the Cowboys.
Correct. I'm
3-1 here going in there.
I'm gonna take the I'm gonna take the Cowboys as well, man. Like you said, revenge game. Our weapons are showing up. Dak Prescott is showing up. The additions that we made in the offseason is paying off already so early. So I like it. Week 4, Packers, Cowboys win that game. Week 5, we got these New York Jets and MetLife. Who's at quarterback?
Yeah, That's a bye week. Yeah. Cowboys win that game. That's an easy win.
The NFL schedules have blessed the Cowboys with multiple bye weeks so early in the
See,
season.
people keep telling me we have one of the toughest schedules in the NFL. Maybe it's on the back end.
If the New York Jets are a bye week, Carolina Panthers are another bye week in week 6.
That's a bye week. Although it'll be fun to see T-Mac with the Carolina Panthers.
Mm-hmm.
A wide receiver we expected to draft. We expect him to be there at 12 for us, but be good to see T-Mac, see how Bryce Young has developed in his third year.
Right.
They got some good weapons. It's Miles Sanders going back to Carolina, a team that decided he wasn't good enough to stay there. They shipped him off and we picked him up. Right. So, that's a win for the Dallas Cowboys.
All right. And finally, the Dallas Cowboys finally played a second game of the regular season minus all the byes. Week 7 against the Washington Commanders. In Dallas.
Yeah, that's tough. Because it's in Dallas, and I want to say after that game, the Cowboys have a bye week. That's tough. It's always tough when you got a bye week after a game because your mind is on the bye week. You're thinking about vacation.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go with I haven't looked at
it's Washington at home. It's Washington at home. I'm taking the Cowboys.
Yeah,
it's at home. I'm taking the Cowboys.
Yeah. For me, it really depends on who the Washington Commanders has played up until the week 7. I haven't looked at their schedule. I have no idea. Maybe they're struggling up until this point because maybe Jaden Daniels is having that sophomore slump a little bit because he kind of won a few games on some Hail Marys and some miracle passes last year. Yeah. So
I mean, they added Debo in the offseason, so they got better on offense.
Maybe
it's going to be interesting.
Debo could be one of those players that, hey, I'm sorry that you got him a year too late because
that's true.
He's on his downside.
You're absolutely
right. All right, week 8, we got the Denver Broncos out to the Commanders, and that is actually in Denver. Think altitude play part in that?
It does, but they have Bo Nix at quarterback, and he's going into his sophomore season as well. So you talk about that second year is always tough because now teams have a lot of film on you. Figure out what you do well, what you don't do well, what frustrates you as a quarterback in that pocket. So, I don't think that Denver team is going to be as good as they were last year. So I'm taking a win for the Cowboys there.
And then we pick up the Denver running back Williams.
We did. We traded for Williams. He wasn't really a big part of their offense last year, but.
Okay.
Obviously, they have a pretty big wide receiver that was in talks that maybe the Cowboys are going to try and go get him when they got George Pickens. But
right.
I just think this Broncos offense is going to take one step back than what they were last year. So
facts. I agree. In week 9, we got the Arizona Cardinals, man, the team that we lost to either last year or the year before that, and we shouldn't have. So I guess it's a revenge game for the Cowboys because losing to the Cardinals to me is kind of unacceptable. So, but we got them at our place this time. So I'm gonna go with the Cardinals. The Cowboys.
That's a W for us. That little mini me in the backfield, he gonna run around and get folded in half by Micah Parsons somewhere. Right. They do have a really good wide receiver. Obviously, Marvin Harrison Jr. is an elite guy in the NFL, right. And the wide receivers typically get better as they play games. Yeah. So,
but his quarterback can't ever see him.
That's true. I don't know. I think he just throws it up there sometimes and hopes.
Right. Week 10, the Cowboys got a bye. So based on our projections so far, you got maybe
the Cowboys losing one game in that first set before they go into the bye week. Now, is that realistic? Like Rich said, it's probably the delusional fan in me, right? But I feel like when you look at all those games are winnable for the Dallas Cowboys.
Facts.
Because we are not the Jets. We're not the Panthers. We're not the Bears. We're not the Giants. We have talent on this roster. Really, outside of the Philadelphia and the Washington Commander game, I really don't see a difficult game on that front schedule. You could probably put the Broncos in that conversation, but outside of those 3 games, which one of those teams improved greatly in the offseason that we feel like they can compete with guys like the Cowboys, the Eagles, the Commanders? Some of those teams are just they're not on that elite level.
I agree. And based on the schedule as well, I maybe Eagles, maybe the Packers. The Packers only scare me because it seems like the Cowboys just can never play them good defensively.
Yeah.
They just come
It's
out in
about,
these
can we
crazy
stop that
formations.
run?
Yeah.
That run game is ridiculous in Green Bay. And if you slow the run game down, they become one-dimensional, and Jordan Love is horrible
Yeah.
one-dimensional
And they got
quarterback.
Josh Jacobs now. I mean, they had Aaron Jones before, but now they still got a good running back there. So
Yep.
it's kind of crazy. But I got them winning a lot of their games, not losing too much. So I like our record going into the bye week. Now, after the bye week, the schedule does tighten up a little bit, but we got those Raiders in Vegas in week 11.
Yeah, Geno Smith coming to the Raiders, looking to extend, some kind of career that he had when he was in Seattle. I don't think he has the same amount of weapons in Las Vegas that he had in Seattle. We'll see. He definitely don't have the defense he had in Seattle. So I think this is a win. I do think the Raiders are going to be a much better football team this year than they were last year, though.
I agree, and the Raiders are definitely probably going to be maybe better coached than what they was. Even though I did like Antonio Pierce, but they got Pete Carroll now, who's probably a way better football mind because he's been in the game a little bit longer than Pierce.
Right.
But I think the Cowboys still take him. So week 12, them Eagles actually come to Dallas in week 12.
Yeah, see, and I'm going to split here. I gave the Cowboys an L in week 1 going to Philly, but Philadelphia coming to Dallas, that's a win for the Cowboys.
Yeah, I like it. And then the schedule makers decided to ruin my Thanksgiving by giving us the Kansas City Chiefs in week 13 in Dallas.
Yeah, and this one hurts. This one hurts because Thanksgiving is the most important holiday of the entire year. It is my favorite holiday. It's family, it's food, it's football. There is nothing better than eating some turkey and ham and stuffing and some rolls and eating some pecan pie, some apple pie, and watching your Cowboys play football. And the schedule makers thought, let's make them play the Chiefs on Thanksgiving.
Right.
As much as I hate to say this, I'm not going to let the Cowboys ruin my Thanksgiving, even though they're going to lose to the Chiefs. I'm not going to let it ruin my Thanksgiving because it will only be their second loss of the year.
Right. And I'm hoping maybe Dallas surprises everybody and actually beats the Chiefs on Thanksgiving. That would be a great Thanksgiving surprise for me because now it looks like I'm going to have to eat and maybe choke a little bit when the Dallas Cowboys miss some tackles and Patrick Mahomes go crazy. But maybe the Chiefs actually struggle a little bit coming into this game because going back to last year, they did have some nail biters that they had to win at the very last minute. They wasn't totally dominating like the Chiefs of the past. Right. So maybe they're another year older, stuff like I'm hoping all that comes into play and the Dallas Cowboys actually win on Thanksgiving and I can enjoy my food and also enjoy
I hope so.
a Dallas Cowboy victory as well. So after Thanksgiving on Thursday night, a week later, we got the Detroit Lions up in Detroit.
Sucks because I'm going to give them an L here because they're in Detroit. That Lions team, we're going to see what they are. They lost both of their coordinators. We'll see what kind of Lions team we get this year, but it's the one time I felt like the Cowboys are going to struggle this part of the season. Mm-hmm. It's late in the season. The Cowboys always tend to struggle late in the year. And this is the part of the culture I hope Brian Schottenheimer is changing, but back-to-back L's for the Cowboys.
Right. For that game, for me, I am just hoping that the Dallas Cowboys show up and don't let Dan Campbell embarrass them on national television on Thursday night game because he hates the Dallas Cowboys because he didn't have the opportunity to start at tight end when he played for the Cowboys. But he got that hate in there. He always loves to embarrass the Cowboys, considering what happened to Detroit the last time they actually played Dallas. And I know they was hoping that we was going to meet in the playoffs, but unfortunately we didn't make it that far, and neither did they. But just show up, please, against the Lions. Yeah. If you don't win, show up. Week 15, we got the Minnesota Vikings coming to Dallas.
That's a W. I don't think the Vikings have a quarterback still.
Right.
I mean, I know they like the kid out of Michigan, but they do have a great wide receiver in Justin Jefferson. They actually have a really good wide receiver core complete, but that's a W for the Cowboys.
I agree. I don't know who's playing quarterback. They running back is Aaron Jones, ain't it?
Yes.
He does have field days when
I believe so.
Dallas.
Oh, he loves playing the Cowboys in Dallas. He most certainly does.
But yeah, I got the Cowboys win that game. Week 16, we got the Chargers, and that is in Dallas.
Yeah, that's a W. I'm not a Justin Herbert fan. I think he gets way too many people are putting Justin Herbert above Dak Prescott, and he's never had a better year than Dak Prescott. His stats just do not show he's a better quarterback. But they love putting Justin Herbert. He's got a good coach. I mean, He's got a hardball coaching him. That's a good coach. So we'll see. It's going to be a hard-fought game. A lot of these are going to be hard-fought games, but I think Dallas takes that one.
Yeah, Week 17, we actually go back outside and we visit the Washington Commanders, and that's a Christmas Day game. Actually, no.
Yeah, that's on Christmas and this sucks, Rich, because I had him losing on Thanksgiving, and then I got him losing on Christmas too. The day we celebrate Jesus' birth, the Dallas Cowboys are going to lay an egg versus the Washington Commanders. They're going to split. I think they split with the Eagles and the Commanders. One game apiece, and I think this is the one where they lose. I hope they don't. That's what I'm going to ask for my Christmas present is.
Yeah,
I need a win versus the Commanders.
I'm gonna have to go ahead and get my Christmas list out for Santa Claus, and all I want for Christmas is a W against the Commanders on Christmas Day, because you can't ruin my Thanksgiving and Christmas. Okay, in the same year, you can't.
You just got to pick one.
Yeah, please. And if you lose on Thanksgiving, please don't lose on Christmas. If I had to pick between the two, take Thanksgiving, okay? But don't ruin my Christmas, doggone it. Like, please, don't do that. But that's in the cold, man. So I'm pretty sure it may be snowing on Christmas Day and up north. So after that, we wrap up the season week 18 against those Giants. So
yeah, another bye week to end the year. The Giants are going to be absolute. They're going to be probably just as bad as they were last year.
Right. I agree with you on that. They had opportunity to pick a quarterback, and they went with probably the wrong quarterback from what I'm seeing right now. But thank you, schedule makers, for giving
up there in Cleveland. Yeah. They should have took Shador.
Yep. So thank you, schedule makers, for giving the Cowboys at least about 5 or 6 buys in the season, and we only got to play about 3 or 4 real teams. So based on your predictions, I wasn't keeping count. I think the Cowboys are going to have a pretty decent season.
12-5, 13-4, realistic. Mm-hmm. I could see it going 11-6, but I really think this Cowboy team is going to be a competitive team this year. They've added pieces to make them a competitive football team. So it'll be one of those things we'll see. I just hope this Cowboy team shows up week in and week out. But should be a good year for our boys.
Last question: do we take the division?
Yeah, obviously nobody has repeated as a division champ for a long, long time, right? And Philadelphia won it last year, so they are not allowed to win it this year. I think the Cowboys are the NFC East division champions. Not only that, but I think the Cowboys get a first-round bye going into the playoffs this year.
Okay, I like it.
I think they have that type of team this year. Everything I see, and look, obviously I'm a Cowboy fan. It's what I want. But when I look at this roster and I see the weaknesses they had last year, and I see the intensity that their head coach is starting the year with in May, this is a team that has potential to have that first round bye and make a run in the playoffs. Again, do not let the Dallas Cowboys win the Super Bowl, because you guys might get silver and blue huddle every other day from us, where we just come on here and talk about how we are the greatest team to ever be assembled, called the Dallas Cowboys. Do not let them win, because I'm going to have tweets scheduled. I have receipts for so many Eagles fans ready to go.
Right. The world is not ready for the Dallas Cowboys Super Bowl.
They are not.
They're not. Nobody's ready for that. But if it happens, best believe we about to get real ignorant around here very often and all the time. I'm just saying.
Sir.
I'm just saying.
Yes, sir.
So that's it for this episode of Silver and Blue Huddle, man. Hopefully the next time we go live for another podcast episode, Micah Parsons will be signed, and we can talk about whatever's happening at that point. But overall, schedule, I'm enjoying the schedule. The first half of the schedule, the second half of the schedule, a little bit tough, but based on how we perform in the first half, we're gonna be A-okay, okay? And hopefully they pick a struggle on Thanksgiving or Christmas. Don't lose both. Pick one. Get together now and talk about what game you're not gonna show up at, okay? Okay, please. And let us know, so I know not to have my expectations up and have like less family members on Christmas and more on Thanksgiving when you think you're going to win. So please get it together. You can't lose both, please. Anything else you want to add, Ed?
No, man, I'm so excited. I can't wait for this year to get going. So super excited for this Cowboy team, and we'll see you on the next Silver and Blue Huddle.
Yep. Subscribe, comment, turn on your bell icon for your notification. Follow Richard Blackman, follow Expert Corner, follow So Amazing as well, and we'll catch you guys on next episode.